You can't talk about Asian American and Pacific Islander immigration without talking about Angel Island, and it would be hard to talk about Angel Island without talking with the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation. With me right now is Katherine Toy, the Vice President of the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Give us an idea, a little historical perspective in terms of what the foundation does, first of all.
Sure. The Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation is really working to preserve the Pacific Rim immigration story, primarily through Angel Island, and to really make sure that that piece of our history, which has been lost and hidden for so long, really comes to the fore and gives America another picture of what the side of immigration looked like in our history.
It's a very strong image, but you're right, a lot of it has gotten forgotten or buried a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Angel Island and its history.
So the immigration station was built in 1910 and operated until 1940 and was essentially built to exclude Asians from America. It was really built to enforce the Chinese Exclusion Acts that Jenny talked about and Sue, and was seen as a place, I mean, if you think about a place where you could detain people and think about people being detained at Alcatraz, right? It's not easy to get off the island, and it's a good place to keep people that they wanted to investigate and interrogate. And
it's interesting because I think a lot of people have sort of almost a romantic sense of Angel Island, like it was some pathway for immigrants, when in fact it was really to try to keep them out.
It was really, Angel Island was the guardian of the Western Gate, and I think that stands in stark contrast to Ellis Island, where people have this romantic notion of America welcoming immigrants. But Ellis Island is very different from Angel Island, which was built to keep people out, primarily Chinese Americans and other Asian Americans.
What did the people have to kind of go through? And maybe I mentioned earlier that you had ancestors that went through there. What was the story in terms of what happened to them as they went through the process?
Sure. So my mother's family, my grandmother, who was born in the United States, did go through Angel Island when she was 5 years old in 1917, and she was there with her mother and brother and sisters, and was detained overnight and then released. So we don't actually have a lot of records on them. My father's family, which was quite large, went through the Seattle's version of Angel Island, and they have probably about 1,000 pages of documents in the National Archives on their comings and goings in the United States.
What did they try to do? What were they trying to do? What were they looking for in this sort of selective process?
They were really looking to see whether, as Chinese Americans, they had the right to be in this country, and they asked them many questions in the investigation about their merchant status, about how many children and family members that they had, who was related to whom. We see in the files testimony of white witnesses as to their business standing in the community, and so on, many telegraphs back and forth, correspondence with attorneys, and so forth.
You have had a chance to be able to kind of trace your family's experience through it. A lot of people would like to.
Yes.
Is there a way to do that now?
There is. The National Archives really is the repository for these documents on Chinese exclusion, and I think really the silver lining in the cloud of exclusion was that there were these voluminous files that were kept. And so just like I did with my family, you can go to the National Archives and look them up. You do have to have information, you know, you should go with as much information as you have, a name, a ship, a date, knowing that sometimes that gets complicated because people came under different names. But anything you can start with is a place to start.
And can you do it online, or?
You can't right now, not really. There is a little bit of an index where some volunteers have in fact done an index where you can look up a name and see if there might be a file there. But the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation has just launched a partnership with Ancestry.com. And so in the next couple of years, we'll be working with them and the National Archives to put thousands of important documents online that will at least make it easier for people to start that search and then to continue that at the National Archives.
I would think that a lot of young people would like to kind of trace their lineage and kind of find out more about their family, especially if it's something that they could actually research and find something. You mentioned that you worked with a lot of students with Ellis Island. Do you hope that a lot of young people will kind of pursue Angel Island and how their families...
I do. You know, my background actually is as a history teacher. I spent 7 years teaching middle school history and always had a love of it myself. And I used to say to my students, you know, everyday people make history every day, and they sort of give that 7th grade eye roll. And so it was such a teacher thing to say. But really what I wanted them to see is to know that this history of this country is really made up of are everyday stories, you and me and all of our neighbors, and for them to see themselves in history. And I really want, especially Asian Americans, students and young people, to know that we had a place in this country, we have a place in this country, that our history is not forgotten.
Did you have that experience that the students and the young people were reacting that way when they were going through it?
For sure. You know, I think, you know, at first they would say, oh, I won't know anything, my family's been here for too long, or there are no stories to tell. And I said, don't tell me that until you've talked to the oldest person in your family. And they always came back with interesting things, even if they were stories that seemed small, they were big in their family lives and eventually in all of our lives.
What do you want people to think about when they think about Angel Island? What's the correct historical perspective as far as you're concerned in terms of how people should view Angel Island?
I really hope that people will look at Angel Island and the story of what happened there as a counterpoint to our American sort of view of immigration, which has, I think, always been kind of a love-hate relationship with immigrants and immigration, and just to know that there are many stories of immigrants and immigration, and that we should really look at that with a critical eye. Who gets to be an American? Who gets to belong? Who do we include and who do we exclude? Because I think that still happens today.
Yeah, even Japanese Americans go through that a little bit when they're internment process, the good and the bad, but it all kind of maybe gives a little bit more depth to their community history, huh?
Absolutely, and it's a place, I think, now where we can reclaim our story and reclaim our history, and that's important, I think, for us to acknowledge that and move forward.
All right, we'll have you back when you have your online process set up, right?
Great.
All right.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you.
All right, Katherine Toy, thank you very much for being here and sharing your insights about your family and the foundation. Well, next up on our show, we continue with a personal look at immigration in Angel Island. Connie Young Yu, the author of The World of Our Grandmothers, will be coming up.